Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Anand. Mr. Anand Pendharkar was the EVS teacher, 94 to 98, and kindly brought in by Mr. Shomidas. I heard many fantastic stories about Anand, how he introduced the students to mist netting in the Rose Bowl Khad. And that lesson and many other lessons stayed for life. So, Anand, here's the mic to you, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you so much. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Thank you.
Yeah. So, a good evening to everybody, and thank you for having me over. And thank you, Mr. Das, for literally snatching me out from the Wildlife Institute of India and changing the course of my life in that process. So, it's been a fantastic journey. Uh, so this is I don't know how I'm I've sort of created a presentation, but let's see how it goes ahead. And
That's fine.
yeah, it depends on everyone's interest. Then we'll discuss a little more or the other on things.
Sure.
So basically, I'm from Bombay, and as a child, I was very weak and frail. I wasn't a very healthy person, and I thought that I would probably not even reach my 10th standard, might die before that because I was 11 kilos. Sorry, I was 18 kilos when I was 11 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I used to have tonsillitis, and going out anywhere was a very big difficult thing. And from there to making a career in outdoors and being a wildlifer is a big fate. I think congratulations to medical sciences that they managed to operate me and get me fit enough to be able to get out into the wild and make it into my career. So there are multiple identities that I have been searching for myself. I've been a TED Talk speaker. I've been a wildlife scientist, trained as a scientist. I've been trained as an international trainer at the WCS with the Bronx Zoo. And recently I co-authored a book called The Other Mahabaleshwar, which has been sold out as I hear now, and then we're coming up with the second edition of that book. Throughout my life, I think what I stand for the last 30 years is as a trekker and explorer. I have been, extensively in the Himalaya. My first foray over there was in 1986, and I've trekked the Himalaya left to right, and from Nanda Devi all the way, and Trishul via with Doon School, of course, to many other parts of the Himalaya, in Nepal as well as in Bhutan. And I've written prolifically. I've published over 650 articles and scientific papers. So I used to be a prolific writer. Currently, I'm working on 7 books, which I'm hoping will
Wow.
come out some point of time. So yeah, as I said, it's the identity search has been quite a difficult one. A little challenging at some points of time. Whether a researcher, and at some points in RA and other things, I had to take up the activist's role as well. But traveler, cycling enthusiast, definitely adventurer, definitely. But I think two things that stand out the most for myself, which keeps me going, is that I like to be in the outdoors. I like to explore new areas. So, whether it is as a cyclist or as a trekker. And the second role I feel is of an educator. I feel most alive when I'm sharing my limited knowledge with youngsters and with youth, giving them, sharing what I have. I think the best way that one can forward pass on what you have is igniting and kindling the passion for wildlife with other youngsters. So you can see here a bunch of underprivileged kids whom we had taken to the Dang wildlife. That's the wildlife sanctuary in Dangs in Gujarat, Purna Wildlife Sanctuary, and this was a bird watching camp that the forest department had sponsored for these children, and I had facilitated the whole program. Uh, and everybody needs their pillars of strength. And in my case, it has been my parents. I live with them even today, like Jesus Christ. And they have been really supportive for all career changes. So like when I was at the Wildlife Institute of India, where I did my masters, and I decided to move to Doon School, I called up my parents and said I'd be dropping out of my PhD and going and becoming a school teacher. And they said, okay, fine. But later on, don't turn around and say that, oh no, we did not support you, or we, should have discouraged you to have taken that decision. So even today, just last week, I had a friend come down from the University of North Lancashire, and she started talking about, Anand, I think you should finish your PhD. You made many futile attempts at it. I can try and connect you with somebody abroad. And my dad and my mom were like, yeah, I think, you should complete your PhD. So, it's so amazing that at this age as well, they are excited that I should go back to academia as a student and study and take things ahead. As is my sister who lives in Australia, and her husband and her daughters. They are my elder niece wants to become an environmentalist, so she's now in a gap year, and she's volunteering with various organizations. And what you can see below is my team of volunteers and interns and my staff, as well as friends. I think could not have done what I did if I did not have a great bunch of friends and supporters. And they are in all age groups. You can see there are really tiny kids, 5-year-old children who are sitting there. They are my friends. The youngest member in one of my programs was a 4-month-old baby that my friend brought for one of my Earth Mela festivals, and he's now 11 years old. So, I feel that why am I doing this? The purpose for why I'm doing what I'm doing is because we have to leave a good planet for the new generation that is coming. But while we are trying to leave a good planet for the new generation, I think we need to leave good citizens for the planet as well. And I think that's where my life has sort of figured out to create those good citizens for this planet. And yeah, professionally, as I mentioned, I did my master's in the Wildlife Institute of India in 1991 to 93. We had the privilege of being at the Forest Research Institute. We were the last batch, which had 6 months in the FRI campus at the current place that it is there. Everyone knows that before that, the Forest Research Institute was located at the Chandbagh campus in the Doon School. So it was providential that from the FRI campus, I took my journey backwards and went to the Oriental Forest Research Institute at the Doon School, and I was there for 4 years. Short stint, I would say, but it was very formative. There were a lot of lessons that I learned at Doon School while working on the environmental science curriculum. But that both these places, the Doon School and the Wildlife Institute of India, were sort of calling cards. I can say, they opened doors. They let me walk through into a lot of places, like the Chiru survey, for example. Mr. Harish Kapadia was trying to connect even the Nanda Devi biosphere, a study that we did for the government of Uttarakhand. When they were looking for scientists who could walk and climb in the Himalaya. They said, "Oh, Doon school teacher, so he definitely has been, trekking in the Himalaya. He's taken students over there." Then they came to know about me having gone for the Trishul expedition, which was the Diamond Jubilee expedition of the Doon school. I will talk a little more about the Chiru expedition in South Siachen that I went to. It was near-death experience.
Anand,
Yeah.
Anand, could you put your mic a little closer, please? We are not able to.
A little closer, better?
Yeah,
Better?
yeah.
Okay, right. So then, while being a teacher, I've also I started an organization called Sprouts, which is an ecotourism and environment consulting company. And I started creating biodiversity festivals. I realized that the silos of tiger watching and bird watching were not good for conservation. We need people who understands from the termite to the tiger, and from the fungi to the largest oaks and salts of the forest. I think they need to know every grain which makes the soil over there. So I started curating and designing biodiversity festivals, started to work with the communities over there to make them enthusiastic. And then I also realized that environment is becoming a very privileged activity. It's only becoming an activity for the rich. So through my organization, I also established a trust, an NGO called the Sprouts Environment Trust, and through which we started working with underprivileged children. And one of the first activities we got to do was to create a food garden for 60 orphan girls in the St. Catherine's Home in Bombay. And all these 60 girls were born with HIV, and they had no way to escape it. So we said, what can we do better is grow good food for them, healthy food in the Bombay city. They had a big campus. So my students and I, we used to, do urban gardening and grow tomatoes and chilies and beets and provide them with a good, food and diet. And finally, creating curricula. I've created multiple curricula. I've the first MBA in environment management. I created that in 2000 at the Aravali Institute of Management in Jodhpur. Then there's a master's curriculum that I've created at Bombay University. It's a master's in biodiversity and wildlife conservation and management, and smaller non-formal curricula which are run at various NGOs and organizations. So basic the quick, if to give an overview, we created a property called the Earth Mela, which is the oldest environment festival. We started that in 2002, and the last Earth Mela happened in 2020. We started telling people that we need to celebrate responsibly. Our celebrations are becoming problematic for the environment to handle. And being an atheist, I was cleaning up beaches. I was, creating Ganeshas, trying to create an opportunity for, nature to survive in their ecosystems. And then I realized that we have problems in our country because we have poor leadership. If education does not create leaders, if all of us remain followers, then we won't be able to solve environmental problems. So I started an eco leadership internship, which was a 1 year long program, where undergraduates would come to me and work and study with me for a year, and then we would train them in various research and documentation and communication mechanisms. And we also run a monthly lecture series, online lecture. Now it is online, but earlier it was a physical lecture series where we get eminent environmentalists and wildlife researchers to come and talk about various activities. So these are kind of about the 30-40 interns that I have trained over the years since 2005. And some of them, for example, Sahas Barve is now an associate professor, and he was also at the Wildlife Institute of India. He did his bachelor's from there. Chetan Rao did his bachelor's from the Wildlife Institute, a master's from Wildlife Institute of India, and in fact is currently also pursuing. So Sahas Barve is now an associate professor at Cornell University in the US. Ovi Thorat is now, she did her PhD from ATRI. Several of them have now completed their PhDs and they've gone ahead, way ahead from where I had started. So I feel very proud. I don't want to, sort of enjoy in their reflected glory, but I think the play school for all these people was the Sprouts internship, where they learned the basic ropes of what are the ethics and what are the disciplines of being a field biologist or an environmental leader. And some of them have also become entrepreneurs. They've set up their own businesses and their own camping setups. Some have become professional photographers. One of them has become a wildlife journalist. So I think, we've spawned out a whole diversity of youngsters who are now working in the field of conservation. These are our Earth Melas, as I mentioned. We started with a very, very small team of participants and volunteers. As I said, no activity can happen without a team of people. And it was a 70-30 format where 70% of the participants were underprivileged people and 30% of the people who used to sort of contribute towards the possibility of this program happening. We've had very, very eminent speakers. Medha Patkar, I was very impressed with her energy, that with the mic not working, with police trying to come and intervene and stop her, she said, "Kuch nahi, hum to bachcho ke sath gana ga rahe. We are just singing and talking over here. There's no politics over here." And the kids so easily communicated and associated with her. I remember Medha Patkar ji coming to Doon School and me trying to offer an umbrella, and she turned around and looked at me and she said, "Do I look like Aishwarya Rai to you that I need an umbrella?" So I reminded her of that incident, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm known to be so nasty to people, but I wonder why yet, they throng and associate with her." But so we talked a lot about, we follow the United Nations themes of conservation that are there. And our last Earth Mela was just before the lockdown at National College, and we had absolutely a full house. The auditorium below and above were packed.
Wow.
But we need, as I said, we need college partners and school partners. But my vision is that these Earth Melas need to now leave the Bombay city, again a privileged place, and go to Andaman and go to smaller, Assam and Odisha if possible, into smaller geographies where such things don't happen. And Bombay now has many, many other alternatives that are there. We shifted our gears from doing popular art activities to International Sustainability Conference. And again, we finished our second International Sustainability Conference, and we had a Doon School alumni who spoke, who did the opening speech, who's a minister from Madhya Pradesh now. So Jayavardhan Singh, he did the opening speech, and we had Jairam Ramesh do the closing speech. We also had a minister from New Zealand, who's a doctor, and talked about a lot about sustainability and inclusion and diversity. So currently, what we did at the conference last November online, we are putting together as a book called the Climate Action Year series, as to what are the climate actions that people can do to, reverse or uh, mitigate for climate change that is there. Our cleanup drives were very, very important when we started in 2009. And we went to the collector to ask for cleanup to be done. He looked at me completely incredulously, saying that, you're going to get people from international schools and privileged people to come and do cleanup at the Juhu Beach or at the Girgaon Chowpatty. He said, are you sure they're going to pick up all the garbage? Our staff sometimes finds it difficult to handle them, and you're going to do it. So he said, yeah, we need to do the lake cleanup and the beach cleanup and the forest cleanup. So we made it a activity that Sprouts does everywhere. Every trek, every trip we go, we do we carry gunny bags and gloves and things like that. Whether it's our Kanchenjunga Zongri trek, we came back with 600 kgs of garbage from Zongri, and the villagers were very surprised. My friend's son, who was 2 years and 7 months, who created a world record with us to go to Zongri and further higher up to Coachella, he himself, had a small bag where he was collecting garbage. And I feel if these lessons get ingrained to you at that early age, you would not throw litter out of buses and trains and airplanes if possible. So I think, direct action is very, very important. So while we were doing this cleanup, I realized that that is an end of the pipeline solution. People are putting the Ganeshas of plaster of Paris and whatever, and we are cleaning them up. We used to collect a very, very large number of idols till the BMC and other people have now geared up to handle all these things. They make artificial tanks, etc. But this was very educational for the children. But we realized that no, we can't keep on cleaning it and people can't keep on throwing. We need to give them a solution. So in 2009, I went to Karnataka to some villagers where artisans used to make clay Ganeshas. I went to my own village and spoke to some of the very senior artists and said, can you teach us how the old Ganeshas used to be made? All the solutions that we need for today are there in yesterday. Some of our traditional practices that are there. So I learned to make Ganeshas from clay, and we started using natural material, natural colors, and we started this campaign. And we said, let's start making them, having workshops for corporates, for school children, for housing colonies, and let them all start creating their own Ganeshas, which they can immerse in a bucket. So one of the first thing we did is told people, reduce for environment. If anything has to be done, come down from your 8 feet, 10 feet to 8 inches and 10 inches. And the simplest way to tell them was that when Lokmanya Tilak did the Sarvajanik Ganpati, the Ganesha was 8 inches large. You don't need a 22-inch large Ganpati. And we've had so many colonies and clubs and things like that reduce the size of their idol. So I think that's reducing the impact is very, very important. And being a part of these things. Secondly, is that till you don't wow children with the beauties of nature, they will not be able to protect it. So doing bird festivals, doing bird watch, wader watches, flamingo watches was important. We used to do outdoor exhibitions, we used to have art-based activities, we used to have theater-based activities, but showing them the flamingos through spotting scopes, through photographs and exhibitions, taking them out into the outdoors, walking on a gangway of a, and going onto a ship and watching birds from there, understanding why Bombay waters need to be kept clean so that when they go back to Kyrgyzstan, when they go back to Ladakh, they will be fed enough to be able to breed. So showing them the connection between each of those habitats. Urban habitats also are very important conservation areas. As I mentioned about the lecture series, the best part of these lecture series is that all my interns who were undergraduate students at that point of time, almost 99% of them have come and spoken as experts in my lecture series. So that is I think my success, the cyclicity, that though if you learned from this organization, please come back and share your knowledge, share your learnings. So Chetan Rao worked on the olive lily turtles in Odisha. So he came and talked about the protection work that they are doing and what is happening to Gahir Matha, what is happening to Rishikulia and other parts. Or Sahas Barve taught us about the techniques of research that are there. Somebody's sound is
Yeah, could I request everyone to mute their mics, please, except Anand?
Yeah, I think my dad is a Baba. If you can switch your sound off. My dad's also joined in. Yeah. Yeah. Can I continue?
Is that okay, Anand? Yeah,
Anand is on mute.
Anand is on mute. Anand, okay. Anand, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So these are our lecture series. Initially, we started at the Bharashtra Nature Park. Dr. Salim Ali had visioned a nature park in a garbage dump in Dharavi in 1992, and I was a college, sorry, 1989, and I was a college student at that point of time, and I used to volunteer in this huge landfill in Dharavi, and we started doing plantations of trees. And people said this gentleman has lost it. At 92, how can you vision a nature park in a landfill? And today there are 88,000 trees in that Maharashtra Nature Park. So most of our Earth Mela festivals, our lecture series, everything of Sprout started at the Maharashtra Nature Park. Unfortunately, as we stand today, that park has been usurped by some developmental activities, the Dharavi redevelopment plan, etc. So we are fighting to not let that park go and keep doing activities over there. So for 2 years, we moved to a BMC school where we did our lecture series, and then even that school had problems because the management. I think environment seems to be something that people are scared of. They don't want environmental activities to happen. So the principal was given a memo by the management, and she had to stop the lectures. So then we moved to the bungalow, living room of our friend's bungalow, and our lecture series continued over there. And then lockdown happened, so we said, okay, that's going to be the end of our lecture series. And a friend from Chhattisgarh told us we did not have a Zoom connection of our own. So he offered us his Zoom connection, and our lecture series moved online. And then that opened us great, opportunities where Aparajita Datta, who's sitting in Bangalore and who's worked in Arunachal on hornbills, could then come online and talk about her work. And Chetan Rao, Sahas Barve from Cornell could, speak from the US, and somebody from Spain could speak. So then, it actually opened out newer avenues to us. So I think that's the other thing that nature teaches us, that never say never. There are always opportunities, which will come, and keep looking for them. Uh, Secondly, documentation. I think Indians are uh, poorest at our documentation. That is something at the Wildlife Institute. Dr. John Singh, who is one of my mentors as well, keeps on saying that if you're a scientist, if you don't write, then you perish. But I think that should happen for everybody. Keeping detailed records of what we are seeing and what we are watching, photographic records, written records, is very important. And now with apps and websites like eBird or other things, one can very easily record and document the work that is there. iNaturalist is there, where you can upload your sightings that are there. There are various other crowdsourced databases which are available. So here you can see a chestnut tail starling which we saw at the RA forest. So my forays in the local bird watching started in RA Mill Colony, in Sanjay Gandhi National Park, and at the CEC, which Dr. Salim Ali and Dr. Humayun Akhtar Ali has set up for Bombay. And there we get rare, very, very interesting species like the green pit viper, even simple things like the frogs. Earlier things which were, considered to be a common species have now split up and have become new species. So I think that's very important that, we need to keep on documenting them. And we'll realize that 5 years, 10 years later, you've got something very important with you. Here you can see a crab spider at the Nagla forest in Bombay again, or the Dan-eyed egg butterfly, and then the jungle owlet. So we run multiple documentation projects across the Western Ghats, the Northern Western Ghats, and close by areas of Sanjay Gandhi National Park, Tungareshwar Wildlife Sanctuary, and the RA Mill Colony. And having done this documentation diligently, even after my hard drive crashed and things like that, I yet have about 20, 25 years of written and documented data, which when the RA Metro Yard was going to be made, I was invited by the Chief Justice of Bombay High Court to present my scientific work and documentation as an amicus curiae. So it then comes out. I was not trained as an activist. I don't believe I'm an activist, but automatically you can present data and help in conservation in that manner. The other thing that I was very, very enamored to Bombay being a group of islands. Unfortunately, Bombayites don't think like islanders; they think like mainlanders, and are developing skywards like crazy. But the marine diversity, Dr. Chapgar, BF Chapgar, who was the curator of the Tarapurwala Aquarium, I had been on beach walks with him, and I wanted to be a wildlife marine biologist. But being in Dehradun at the Wildlife Institute of India, they did not let me go to Lakshadweep to do my master's thesis work. They said, you know, you are also a good trekker, so why don't you go to the Himalaya and study Goral instead? So there I was. I went and landed up in in Himachal Pradesh in Simbalbara Wildlife Sanctuary, and some of my team members, I think Suniti and Samir, they've come with me to Simbalbara, and we've taken some bird watching trips for the students there. But this passion of the marine diversity stayed with me. I had gone to Lakshadweeps in my first year BSc study excursion, and the corals we saw, the marine creatures we saw, had really made a big impact on me. So whenever I used to come back to Bombay, I used to immediately rush to the beach and start taking pictures and start documenting things. And as luck would have it, we released the first marine biodiversity app on 14th of November. Mr. Jairam Ramesh released that, and surprisingly, that is the only marine biodiversity app in India. It's unbelievable that at 2021, 2022, we have no marine biodiversity app. We have 7,500 kilometers of coastline, and nobody's created an app around it. So a small organization like Sprouts with a 6-member team has managed to document and create an app in just less than 6 months. So here you can see a porpit. If I can go from the left. So this is a old shell of a spiral melangena, and there are two eyes popping out of a hermit crab looking at different. So the world inside and the world outside is very different. In Bombay, world can be quite scary. And on the right, the blue things that you can see, those are zoanthids. And believe me, these are all pictures from Bombay. Okay, whether it's the brittle star, the hook-nosed sea snake, or the nudibranch, or those are called as sea slugs. There are some 25 species of sea slugs found in Bombay. Next to that is the porpita, which is a super colony where multiple creatures come together and form a colony. Then you can see these are rock anemones, minipe crabs, and mud sand anemones. So there are so many diversity of creatures which are found within the city, and we are coming up with a book. Hopefully by July or so, we'll be able to release a book on the coastal diversity of Bombay. Uh, so while we were doing our research work, we believed that we have to publish. So I used to encourage my students to go and do poster presentations at conferences, and that really helped their careers much more. That if at an undergraduate level you've done a poster presentation in a large conference, then once you go further for your masters or for your PhD, and you have to actually do a more scientific presentation for others, you don't have the stage fear. You already have a publication on your name. So all my interns, before they leave the internship, have to have at least one publication. That's like an unwritten rule that I had set within the organization. You should have done at least 20 presentations to colleges, schools, and other things. So these were requirements in the internship that we have ingrained. So several of these. So the first one you can see is the coastal diversity of Bombay. The second one is about the RA milk colony. Sorry, this is about the Mumbai Trans Harbour Link Road, which is coming. So I was nominated as the JICA expert, bird expert, to study and give them a status report of what the status of the birds is in the Mahul Shivri Bay, where the coastal road is coming up. So I took a team of 30 people and we did a documentation of this. So at a recent conference, one of my students, she put this paper together, and you will see that we don't have a problem of co-sharing or co-authoring. I've seen papers in America which have 24 authors, and I think that's the way to go. Conservation and collaboration is a way that people have to learn. So in most of my papers, there are, like you can see, 8, 10, 15, 20 authors also. In my book also, which I'm coming up with, there are going to be 8 authors. So, I think collaboration is something that we learn. And here you can see we put all the scheduled species that are present in RA milk colony. And this didn't surprise the Chief Justice. But what really surprised the Chief Justice were there were 22 species of ants. When he saw the poster of the ant species, and he's like, oh, the red ant is not the male ant, and or the black ant is not the male ant, and the red ant is not the female ant. You mean to say each of these are different species? So I said, yeah, sir, each of them are different species, and each species, each colony has about 1 lakh or 2 lakh ants, and there might be 30,000 colonies. So you please put the number together. If they could vote, how many citizens of India are not being considered for, their citizenship rights? the Constitution and Article 21 applies even to the ants and to the spiders. And it was very moving to see that the Chief Justice would, took the effort. There was a lot of discussion and debate that went through about what is really going to happen to the biodiversity of RA. And this is the campus bird count and great backyard bird count, which is done world over. So again, we encourage our students to study birds in their own college. And then year after year after year, when different students collect that data, we see how the data pans out. So I think sometimes, very basic and simple research can happen at our campuses, in our neighborhood, in our colonies, and we don't put this data together, which many other countries are very good at compiling. So we encourage our students to do these kinds of very simplistic and very easily manageable studies while they are doing their social activities, while they're doing their colleges and other things. They can put this kind of research together. So I believe that people have made research into some very big hawa. It's not. It's very simple and systematic documentation. So once we do that, each of us can do research and contribute to research and science. This is the flamingo studies in, we used to count 20,000 and 30,000 flamingos. Believe me, I'm sorry to say this, but flamingos are over glorified pink mosquitoes. If the Thane Creek gets cleaned up, the 1 lakh flamingos that we see, the population might come down to 10,000. The high population of flamingos in Shivri and Bombay is a reflection of the pollution in these creek areas. So that's not a good sign actually. They look nice, they look pretty, all that is fine, but ecologically we can't be emotional. We have to be scientifically, open-minded about these things.
So Anand, I was going to ask you to maybe organize a flamingo trip for us in Bombay, but obviously that may not be a good idea anymore.
No. See, like I just, yesterday I went to the Airoli Center and they have a beautiful boardwalk over there. And at the end of the walk, there are flamingos, definitely. But we saw waders. Like today morning, I was at Vasai Creek and we counted pteric sandpipers. We looked at breeding colors of the sandflowers. There were some ruddy turnstones, and we found unfortunately a dead humpback dolphin also over there. So there is enough. And crabs. Like yesterday, we saw 4 species of crabs over there in the mud flats. I saw a congregation of 200 flatworms. So, of course, besides the mangrove trees and plants that are there, the birds and other creatures are definitely there. So, when we talk about biodiversity, the mangrove ecosystem has lots to offer. We saw telescopiums, like literally 1/2 a foot long telescopium shells. So, I would be happy to lead a trail to.
I've done a trail opposite somewhere where where the Godrej thing is in Vikhroli.
Yes.
Opposite that, there are these salt pans.
Correct.
And there's these small gullies, some like kacha roads that go in, and I've gone inside there with the BNHS actually many years ago. And incredible. I mean, so many different kinds of flamingos, not just pink. I mean, there are other kinds of flamingos and other kinds of birds.
And lesser flamingo, both of them, yeah. And then you have juveniles also. But this year, like a friend of mine, she said that generally they should be all gone by March. We are in May now, and they're in large congregations. Sometimes over the monsoons also they've been seeing, the flamingos there. So as I said, I got pushed into activism very unwittingly, because people were giving all sorts of false stories. I said, no, somebody has to tell them what really is present over here. Why are we? And we had created 9 alternatives for the location. It wasn't that we were saying, don't do RA. I don't believe in, going back to the Stone Age and living with a, Laltane. I travel by metro myself. So, it's not that I don't want development, but if there are alternative locations which are available. So you need to, to be a good that's why I call myself ecologist and not an environmentalist, because sometimes environmentalists are heady, headstrong people who will not budge and let anything move ahead. So while we also stopped the road rollers and the other things, we showed them that the yard where it's going to be made, that it's a python breeding site. The place where we are, watching. So if I can show the next video, this there was one protest which happened, and I was very, very unwell. I had food poisoning, and I was throwing up the whole night. And I said, okay, I'm not going to go today. And at 9:30, 10, I got lots and lots of phone calls that, Anand, you have to come. It's imperative that you come here. So I got up and I went, and again I got down and I threw up. And finally, when I reached there, there was a podium, there was a small mic and other things that were going on. The minute I got onto that car where they were talking, a police officer, she pulled me down and threw me on the thing, and they said, okay, stop everything, this is not going to be allowed, etc. And they took the mics away. So this student, who's a theater student, he got down And he just like put his head inside my feet, and he's like, he picked me up. He's like, you start talking. Don't, stop. You're here. You got to talk and tell people what it is. And I spoke for about 7, 8, 10 minutes. And somewhere midway, somebody started recording it. It got over. Again, they dispersed us. They said there is 144. You can't be talking and you can't be congregating. We gave you more than enough time. I reached home. I switched my phone off because I was throwing up badly. I said I need to rest. And when I woke up after 3 hours, there were some 600-700 missed calls and 100 odd messages. And I said, okay, there's something which has happened. I don't know what has happened. Maybe the yard has got cancelled, and everybody's congratulating everybody. So I said, okay, I'll go get milk and come back. And I went to the milk shop, and that milkman is saying, sir, आप तो बहुत famous हो गए. आपका तो, YouTube पे video आ गया, इस पे, Instagram पे, it's, whatever. So I was like, what are you talking about? And then he showed me this video of me talking over there, if I can play that. Just tell me if you can hear the sound.
उसकी जड़ें 70-80 ये पूरा पेड़ जो है 80 फीट से ज्यादा कवर कर रहा है, चाहे वो एक्सोटिक स्पीशीज की क्यों ना हो, वो जमीन को
I'll start it again.
है, ये फॉरेन स्पीशीज है, पर एक पेड़ जो होता है उसकी जड़ें 70-80 ये पूरा पेड़ जो है 80 फीट से ज्यादा कवर कर रहा है, चाहे वो एक्सोटिक स्पीशीज की क्यों ना हो, वो जमीन को मिट्टी को पकड़ा हुआ है, वो पानी को पकड़ा है। जहाँ हम लोग खड़े हैं ये ओशिवारा रिवर का ओरिजिन पॉइंट है, ठीक है, यहाँ से उस तरफ से मीठी रिवर का ओरिजिन पॉइंट है। ये दोनों नदियाँ शुरू हो रही है। आपने प्लांटेशन मियावाकी करो, जापानीज टेक्निक है, वो जापान में ठीक है। 175 मियावाकी प्रोजेक्ट्स आ रहे हैं जो इस एरिया के लिए सही नहीं है। उस पे 80 करोड़ से ज्यादा पैसा खर्चा होने वाला है। उसको पानी कौन देगा? हमारे घर से पानी। हाँ, स्पीकर मना कर दिया, सुनाई दे रहा है ना? बस सुनाई दे रहा है। ओके, सो प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप देखेंगे इसके ऊपर ऑर्किड्स लगे हुए, यहाँ पे फॉरेस्ट आउटलेट्स दिखते हैं। यहाँ पे ही आपको जाके हम लोग यहाँ पे बर्ड वॉचिंग करते हैं, एक छोटे से किलोमीटर के वॉक पे आपको 70 अलग अलग प्लांट्स, वनस्पति सब दिख सकते हैं। तो ये सारा फॉरेस्ट के कंपोनेंट्स है, ठीक है। सिर्फ पेड़ करने से होता नहीं है। आपकी उंगलियां, हमें 5 उंगलियां यहाँ से काट के यहाँ 10 उंगलियां लगा दूं तो हाथ नहीं बनता, ठीक है ना। दूसरी बात यह है कि जंगल होता है, उसमें जानवर होते हैं। आपके मियावाकी फॉरेस्ट में लेपर्ड्स होने वाले हैं, वहां से नदी उगम होने वाली है, आदिवासी लोग रहने वाले हैं, बनने वाली है, 2-2 मीटर पर पेड़ होने वाले, घर है किसी का। आपको आपके घर के अंदर हम जाके अगर उनके बंगलों के अंदर बोले कि यहाँ पे यार्ड बना दे तो वो करेंगे? आपके हाउसिंग कॉलोनी अगर हटा के हम बोलेंगे कि यहाँ पे यार्ड बनाओ, तो बहुत सारी ऐसी जगह पड़ी है, लेपर्ड छोड़ दे। LNT का कॉम्प्लेक्स पड़ा है, IIT का, उसमें हर चीज में एक इकोसिस्टम है। इकोसिस्टम नाम की चीज जिसकी परिभाषा होती है उसको समझिए जरा। तो यहाँ से नदी उगम होती है, प्लांटेशन में से नदी उगम नहीं होती। आप रास्ते के साइड पे दोनों तरफ अगर प्लांट्स लगाए तो उससे नदी उगम नहीं होती है। उसके ऊपर बंदर, चिड़िया, अभी आते हुए हमने बंदर देखे, तो वो कहाँ रहेंगे? आपके घरों में आएंगे फिर अटैक करने। फिर हम लोग बोलेंगे पैन एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बढ़ गया है, शहर के अंदर जानवर आ रहे हैं, हमको अटैक कर रहे हैं, पर हम उनके घर के अंदर आए हैं पहले और वहां पे हम तोड़ रहे हैं। अलग अलग टुकड़े करके हम इसको टुकड़े गवर्नमेंट तो यही है कि ये सारी टुकड़े कर रहे हैं पार्ट्स के, हमारे शरीर के। ये जंगल हमारा शरीर है। सो वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि पहले ये पेड़, डोंट जस्ट काउंट देम एज ट्रीज, यू आर मिसिंग द फॉरेस्ट फॉर द ट्रीज, राइट? ये हमको समझना है।
Okay, so this was the video which sort of
Wow. That's a real fiery speech, Anand.
Yeah, I did. And then after the speech was done, again I went and threw up and whatever. So, but I think taking any polar positions is not my style of doing things. I believe that we all have to come together and discuss. So while over here I might have sounded very anti whatever a certain group of governmental officers or whatever, but you can see I've done a lot of training programs with government departments, whether it is in Gujarat, whether it is in Madhya Pradesh, whether it is in Maharashtra. So here I am with the Maharashtra Madhya Pradesh guides, all the guides in Satpuras. For 3 years we used to go and train them, including in Churna and these parts, which they were planning to shift those villages. So as a part of the relief, they were going to train the youth over there to become forest guards and guides. And after I finished the first day of the program, the assistant PCCF was there, and I requested him. I said, this is not a very good balanced team. So he said, "Kyun? Sab gaon ke log aaye hai, or people from all villages are there." So I said, "I can't see a single woman in this team." I said, we cannot move in society with one gender taking all the positions. You know, I need, next time if you're organizing, at least 10 women have to be there as the guides over here. And next time when they organized, they saw to it that at least 50% and upwards of women were there in the training program. So I think, you know, one has to grow and understand and push the envelope on all these issues. And then my friends tell me, oh, you're a feminist, you're a this, gender activist. So all these things, you know, we start, you know, labels start getting put onto you. And I don't have issues with labels being put onto me. People tend to shun labels, and I'm very happy to take them as long as they're going to benefit, you know, different people and society. So I believe in the concept of biosphere reserve. A tiger reserve or a national park is an exclusion you know, concept where it removes villagers, it removes tribals, and, you know, gets pure conservation and wildlife over there. But then a railway project might pass through it, and sometimes five-star hotels and lodges might come next to it. But when then those same people who were the owners of the forest become waiters and drivers, that's not a good developmental model. We need to have a good, better inclusion development model. And the biosphere reserve of the United Nations, you know, allows people and society to work together. Uh, this is a project that we run, which is called the Mumbai Biodiversity Project. We are extending it now to other cities also. We call it the Urban Biodiversity Project. You don't need only national parks and sanctuaries to protect biodiversity. Biodiversity is found right within our midst. And Bombay was the best example to show them right from the smallest, you know, floating plant, the lemnas, to the largest, you know, teak trees, to from blue whale to the atlas moth, to centipedes, to tree shrews, to all these, you know, bent-toed geckos, butterflies. We have 175 species of butterflies in Bombay, which is 50% of all the butterfly species in the entire
Now it's
Southern India.
stopped. Your audio is
25
stopped.
species. Hello.
Now it's okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah. So we have 325 species of birds recorded in the Bombay region, and that is 1/5 of entire bird diversity of the entire country.
Wow.
So when people say that, you know, Bombay is a concrete jungle, I tell them, please come with me. I will show you rivers. I'll show you, you know, there are blue whales also, which have been, of course, they were beached blue whales. But in RA itself and Sanjay Gandhi National Park, we have documented 1150 species of plants, fungi, birds, butterflies, mammals, everything. 1100, 1200 species of, you know, dragonflies, damselflies, spiders, ants. It's not a small number. You can't just, you know, concession them off. So what did we do? We just took a very pretty picture, made it into like a Polaroid, 3 or 4 sentences of information, where it was found, what date, whose photograph it is. And that is legally permissible data. When you have date, location, and time and everything mentioned, you can also submit this as a legal data. So we said, let's work in a more sensible manner, make people wowed. Every day, every third day, we used to put up a beautiful picture with small bits of simple information. So as you can see, leveraging my strengths of language, I can speak English, I can speak Hindi, I can speak Marathi, I speak a little bit of spattering of Bangla and Gujarati, and I use these languages to, you know, communicate more with people. And as I go wherever, I try to learn at least some basic Tamil or, you know, whatever, whichever languages I can. Now I'm working in Odisha, so I'm trying to learn some Sambalpuri Odia. And the biggest on my learning list at this point, if you, I can show you my, you know, to-do board, is to learn Indian Sign Language, because I'm now working with, I've adopted a deaf school in Odisha, and we're trying to help them. So if I want to take nature to them, then first I need to be trained in Indian Sign Language. So, you know, these are some of the things. I think all school teachers should be trained in sign language. It's going to be it'll be probably a very helpful thing to do. And the biodiversity festivals, you know, the passion, all this was all learning and hard work. There has to be some play in life, some fun. So trekking and climbing, you know, whether it is at Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve in eastern Sikkim or Kashmir. So when I go to Kashmir, you know, Overa Oru or, you know, Pahalgam, of course the Dal Lake and other parts are there. So my dad came a few years ago with me, and we went to Srinagar, and then from there we went to a very, very special place called Kasinak Wildlife Sanctuary. And that's the only place where just after walking for half an hour, you can see a very rare mammal called the Markhor, Kashmir Markhor. And that's one of the only places in India where one can go and watch Kashmir Markhor. And my dad had just had an heart attack before that, and he could come to Kashmir, and we could go all the way till that trek over there. So all my parents have come to Andamans with me, my mother's come to Sikkim with me, my dad has come to Kashmir. So I think what they taught me, I share that passion with them. So yet we can do a lot of things. My dad is 77, my mother is 75, and yet we can have a lot of common things to share. So I think that's the other thing, that when people start common things together, I believe that the family is a conservation unit. If parents want to do nature and conservation and the children want to do something else, then there is a nothing that sort of crosses and comes together over here. You can see this boy Dave over here. He was just 4.5 years old when he came with us for the Biodiversity Festival in Kanchenjunga. This is Dang Bird Festival. These are all tribal children from the Dang forest. One of the forest officers over there was very visionary. He said, Anandji, for 4 years we've done festivals for all the urban children from Surat and Baroda and Ahmedabad and Bombay and all that. Now I want to do something for the tribal kids over there. And we organized for a festival there. And then the local kids started showing us the wildlife in what do they call in their own language. And after having roamed forests for 25 years, I learned something from the tribals over there, that the Varli painting that people do is not done by rice paste or not done by white paint. But when the pine tree, Terminalia tomentosa, Terminalia alata, when that is burnt, the ash that comes out is white in color. And that is the ash that is originally used for making Varli painting, because the Varli originates from the Dang forest. And he says this has been our tradition for 1200 years. I never knew this information. So, sometimes going into the outdoors, we think that we are going to teach the children. We come back more educated about things. Same was the case in Bhutan. When we went to Bhutan to go to the Tiger Nest Monastery, there was a person who offered to carry my friend's son because my friend was getting very tired. And we asked him whether my friend asked him whether he was a porter. So he said, no, sir, I am on my penance month. All Bhutanese people spend 1 month, away from their family for the community. And he said, I'm on my community service. So, so then we asked him, what do you do for 11 months? He said, I'm the chief engineer of entire Bhutan state. My job is to, see that all the dams and all the electrical projects and road projects and everything run properly. But this 1 month, I go away from my family and I stay and I help people and I clean the steps of the Tiger Hill Monastery Road for people to be able to walk peacefully over there. The chief engineer of a country is working like a common person and not identifying himself and helping community. I think that's where the happiness quotient comes from. That selflessness and that Bhutan was a dream country. I think there's a lot to the beautiful Punakha river where the Zong is there, and you can see how although it's a foreign species. Hello, can you hear me?
Where is this, Anand?
This is in Punakha in Bhutan.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, the entire path leading to the monastery has been lined up like this. So it's a foreign tree species, but you can create it to make it look beautiful. When the tourists come in, that time this tree is in full bloom. So it looks really, really pretty. I like the site over there. And of course, there were rhododendrons also, which were there on the other side on the mountains. I'll quickly tell you a story of this. On the right hand side, what you can see, the butterfly called the yellow gorgon. That butterfly made me run 14 years. I've searched for this butterfly, and it looks like a dry leaf. When it sits inside the leaves, you can't find it. It's almost a 8 to 10 centimeter long butterfly. Very pretty, very beautiful.
It's very gorgeous.
Yeah. So it should
Where
have
is
been
this, Anand?
This is in Baksa Tiger Reserve in West Bengal, northern West Bengal.
Wow.
So I had gone for a Dragonfly India Meet Festival, and we were obviously clicking dragonflies, and then somebody said gorgon, and I've gone to Eagle Nest, I've gone to in Arunachal, I've gone to all Tale Valley, whatever places where the yellow gorgon is found, I've gone there. 2 visits, 3 visits, 5 visits, spent tons and tons of money to find it and photograph it. Nothing. And I didn't even know that gorgons are found so easily accessible places like Buxa Tiger Reserve. And here it comes and sits right next to my foot. And then for 2 hours, I took pictures and videos. And after which I was like, okay, lifetime of Gorgon, yellow Gorgon done. Okay, this happens. And then I turn around and then we're sitting in this water over here. You can see the picture below. We are, sort of chilling out, like really happy for having seen the Gorgon. And my friend next to me, he asks me, so Anand, so what's the next target? So I said, brown Gorgon. You never get happy. Now that yellow Gorgon is ticked off the list, then, you have to see the brown Gorgon now. So
is this least concern? Is this on the least concern list?
So recently there was this, it is not the least concern. It is I think it's in the vulnerable category. But in numbers, they're quite uncommon. So their numbers are pretty low. They are not in danger per se, but they are not very populous numerically. So this August, I'm hoping to go to Talewali to look for the brown Gorgon. Let's hope I get that that way. And this other picture that I've taken is in Nepal. It's Royal Bardia Wildlife Sanctuary. And we were on an elephant, and we got down, and this rhino was literally almost like a hippo. It was inside the water, and it was sitting, I think, inside, and it just stood up over there. And the Mahavat got so startled that he said, sir, piche jate, he'll come and this rhino will come and attack us. And this boy was, I think, just 16 or 17 years old, the Mahavat. He said this is the second week that he's being a Mahavat. His father was the Mahavat and he passed away, and he's just taken up this elephant. And he's telling me that I let the elephant take me wherever she wants to. If she starts becoming a little uncomfortable with something, then I let her take back. So I am under training under the elephant. I think that was a statement that again changed my life. That everyone says that Mahavats train elephants. This time I was seeing an elephant training a Mahavat. So there are these very life moving kind of moments that I've had in my life. The other one is about the wild ass, and I think the Gorkhad name is a very appropriate name in Gujarati. I think wild ass does not give it justice. It gets a little derogatory sometimes. I think some of the English names need to be recoined to make them sort of complimentary. So I've had the good fortune of seeing the Indian wild ass in Kutch and the Tibetan wild ass in the Siachen, the Tibetan plateau in Sikkim and in Siachen. But the thing is that the problems are the same. It's development, construction, and a lot of warfare activity. Like all the army areas. They are always on the borders between countries, both these species, and there's so much of warfare waste and material that is thrown in these parts that there could be landmines over there. There could be shells which are fallen out in those parts, and nuclear activities and all testing is done. We don't even care whether these species are present over there. They're very important species, and sometimes we need to start thinking beyond, human villages are not there, we've moved the human villages. But what about the beetles over there? What about the all-headed snake? What about the wild ass in that area? So
we can't hear you, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, so whenever I talk to, like when I was in Siachen also, and when I was meeting the senior officers over there, I used to be very passionate about saying, we found a lot of shells, unused shells or whatever fallen down. Can you all please spend some time and try and collect them and clean, take them up? Otherwise, I'll bring a team of people and we'll do the cleanup for you. So they said, no, this is all dangerous material. You can't be going and touching it. So I said, yeah, but somebody needs to. You can't be leaving them out around like that. But I think the passion does get transmitted and conveyed to them. We had a very good luck when we went to Andaman.
Wow.
And on the climate change day,
So pretty.
we were doing a cleanup drive near the lighthouse on North Bay Island. If you see the 20 rupee note behind that, there's a lighthouse, which is from the Andamans. And so we were doing a cleanup drive on the 24th of October over there. And the Coast Guard came thinking that there were some coral poachers. And we were all inside the water. There was, in fact, a 65-year-old retired school teacher in her sari, and she was scuba diving inside and going and getting tires and, beer cans and all the things that people had there. Now, when they came and they, surrounded us and everything, and they came and they saw that what was there on the boat was so much of garbage. It wasn't, corals and sea cucumbers and other things which they were expecting. And then they asked the boatman, foreigner hai? So they said, nahi, Indian hai. So he said, kitna paisa liya? Bolte 10,000. So he said, they paid 10,000 rupees and they are doing a cleanup also. We did beat these people. So then we got called by the Southern Command and our entire team was felicitated over there. And then I asked him, I said, do you not have divers in your in the Navy? And he said, no, every diver has to do 1,000 hours of some logging of dives that are there. So I said, why don't you put, let's say, 10 hours or 15 hours for every diver to do some cleanup? And he said, if I write this as a thing for my diver, whatever one command puts for one area, that is applicable for all the commands in the entire country. And he said, I'm going to definitely recommend something like this. So sometimes, over a tea, something that you do unknowingly can possibly, result in very different actions. Quickly to tell you, this is the black cap kingfisher, one of the commonest kingfishers in Andamans. You'll see them everywhere. They eat crabs. They're very,
Very
look like
beautiful.
kookaburras almost,
Lovely.
Yeah. And then
So much color.
this is a batfish over here. Batfishes look like dry leaves, actually. They also hide between dry leaves. So when the water is sort of swaying, the batfishes sway with them and they can't be seen by predators and they're feeding in that area. So one of the very prettier fishes found on the coastal areas. And they don't use their eyes too much. They use the lower fins as, like little like tripods, holding and touching and like walking sticks, like blind people. So that's another thing. If you see, the actual tail is really tiny and transparent. You can't see the tail. So they have a very weak tail and transparent tail, but the remaining part of the body has this pattern, like a zebra pattern, to hide inside the lights of the wave. And this is a felstuma, or a emerald gecko of Andamans, which is very famous. One again story that I should tell you: when in 2000, after the tsunami, when we went. No, sorry, my first trip was in I think 1998 8 or so, and we went looking for this emerald gecko, and we searched all the forest areas and we just couldn't find it. So we were on Havelock Island and we were having some fish and rice, and we asked the shopkeeper, do you know where this emerald gecko is found? So he's like, "Arey, there is a banana plantation right across. You should go there and you will find it." And we had for 7 days, searched everywhere, and then we found the emerald gecko in the banana plantation. And then we realized that actually they are more in urban areas than anything else. And the lower picture that you can see, this is a sea cucumber. A lot of these sea cucumbers are poached and consumed by the local people. So there is great diversity. If anybody of you all, if you all go to Andamans, everyone goes to Havelock, but believe me, better than Havelock, I think I would recommend that you go to Neil Island. It's a very small island. It's probably one of the most amazing islands to go and visit for marine diversity. Then from there, I jumped to my Himalaya again. I keep on switching. That's why I said I have an identity crisis, whether it's the ocean or the mountains. What attracts me more? So this is Lat Panchar and Baksa. You can see a lesser yellow-naped woodpecker. For the last 10 years, every year, barring this year, every year I go to this place called Lat Panchar, which is a birding paradise, absolutely. Very close from, Siliguri or New Jalpaiguri or Bagdogra, wherever you arrive. And excellent birding location, close to about 400, 450, no, almost 500 species of birds over there. You can see a lesser yellow-nape above and a great barbet below. And then on the right-hand side, this is in Baksa Tiger Reserve. So we were watching the Asian fairy bluebird below, and you can see they've got bright red eyes. It's one of the most fantastic looking birds.
Very beautiful.
We were in the gypsy and I took this picture, and then suddenly from the corner of my eye, I saw in the little stream, there were probably at least 40 fairy bluebirds bathing in the water.
Oh, wow.
So I was like trying to take a picture and I got a fantastic composition, and somebody said, emerald cuckoo. And I just told the driver, drive. I didn't even click for the fairy bluebird. I said, I can go to Dandeli and I can see fairy bluebirds. I can go to 100 places and see fairy bluebirds, but emerald cuckoo, no, I have to go. And then we drove ahead, and a little above on the road, this bird was sitting. Again, another wish list. Emerald cuckoo, violet cuckoo. These are very uncommon birds. But Baksa, Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary, these are excellent places to go and bird in. But because of the elephant issues, we've put in railway tracks, we put in so many developmental projects in the elephant area. plus human population is very high in northern West Bengal. So that elephant-human conflict which is there, we can't see such rare gems which are found so close to us. So, you want to get pictures, like I used to go walking and the guides used to tell me, sir, someday you'll be found dead in the forest. Please don't do this. Don't go out into the forest alone. Like, walking these areas are not safe for some of things. But there are fantastic gems which are hiding. The other passion that I have,
Fabulous pictures, Anand. Wonderful shares.
I'm not a very good photographer, by the way.
No, they're fabulous.
So yeah, on the group I've seen that there are some really high quality pictures. But as I say, I've not shown you a single tiger picture till now. But these are my tigers and lions and elephants.
Gorgeous.
So here you can see a dark archduke, beautiful coloration, and they are really amazing butterflies. Next to that is a freak. I don't know why the name is freak is given to it, but again, a very, very uncommon butterfly. It took me about 15 years of going to Northeast India before I could get a picture of the freak butterfly. The red lacewing is a fairly common butterfly. It's found in many areas, but nevertheless, every time I see it, I can't resist myself from clicking another picture. I must have some 50 or 60 red lacewing butterfly pictures. But again, when I see it, I say, okay, no, it's so pretty. I need to take some more pictures of it. And same is the case with the 5-bar swordtails. Swordtails are very pretty butterflies. There are 4-bar swordtails, which are much rarer. 5-bar are much commoner. There is a 6-bar swordtail. There is a spot swordtail. There are spotless swordtails. So they are really beautifully designed, and elegant. And see the color, the sort of lavender, lilac colors that they have. So what the butterfly is doing sitting here, it's called mud puddling. They are sucking sap from the soil. And to quickly share a story about this butterfly, this is a Naga forest quaker. This is the only second picture that is found of the which at least when I had taken in 2016, that was the second photograph that anybody had. And we were in Namdafa Wildlife Sanctuary, and this friend of mine, Vidya Venkatesh, who's a great butterfly enthusiast also. So Vidya and me, we were walking together, and Sanjay Sondi was further up ahead. Who's a moth expert and a IIT engineer who shifted into wildlife full time. Is from Dehradun and Mussoorie. He runs the Titli Trust, a fantastic wildlifer and a great human being. So Sanjay was ahead and we were behind, and I saw a small white butterfly. So this group of butterflies is called the blues group of butterfly. Lycinids are called blue butterflies. So this blues butterfly came and sat somewhere next to Vidya, and she was in between plants and in the bushes. So I said, Vidya, on your left, there is a lycinid butterfly. It seems something interesting. I thought it was a forest pierrot, which is also a very uncommon butterfly. So she started looking, and I said, she's like, where exactly? So I said, there's a stinging nettle plant. It's, I think, sitting on that. And I was on the bridge on the road, a little, about 15, 16 feet away. And she's like, Anand, I don't know plants. Don't tell me stinging nettle. So I said, okay, green colored plant. In Arunachal, if you're going to tell anybody there's a green colored plant, it's not going to really help, because for her everything is the same. Then if you can't tell a stinging nettle from anything else, then what have you done in the mountains? So you really have not been in your mountains. So I said, okay, there's this plant with this hairy thing on it and whatever. And she located the plant, she located the butterfly. By the time she could pick her camera, suddenly a huge elephant came charging at her.
Oh my God.
Okay, and she ran, and the butterfly flew away. I had taken 2 pictures from the bridge, and this was one of the pictures, which was clear.
Beautiful.
And it turned out to be and I did not know what it was. In the night, when I showed them, she started crying. She's like, Anand, this is a rare, very, very rare butterfly. You got a fantastic shot. So I didn't know what I was clicking, of course.
Wonderful.
In that case. And then you see this elephant was on a chain with a Mahavat. And so I asked him, why did he not come onto the bridge? So he says, Hathi kabhi bhi bridge ke upar nahi chadega. They will go down into the valley. They are scared. They wait. They know how heavy they are. They will never go onto bridges. So when we are making overpasses over Rajaji, the Dehradun railway track and all, they have to understand that elephants will not go up over, overpasses. They will need underpasses only. So, when we are making, in case there are expressways and other things, we've seen a tiger in, tiger reserve, trying to cross the expressway and got hit by a car. That's because they need underpasses. They are not comfortable going over fast waters and fast traffic, etc. So that was a lesson. And this chain was, left a track all throughout. He had huge leeches on it over there. So that was the elephant story. And we came out from there, 5-7 days of great time, 2 days of cyclone and trees falling down, 240 feet tree falling. I saw Zero over there. I was telling Samir that, he took some really good Zero pictures recently. I was like, yeah, Namdafa, I was almost clicking a picture when a 200-foot tree came crashing, and I managed to survive that. And then we came out and we saw this kid. He had a catapult in his hand. And we're like, what are you hunting? And he pulled this bird out, which is a beautiful sibia. And it's a amazing bird. It's a pretty bird. And then we asked the boy behind him, can you see how small that boy is? And he had a pouch like that, and he had a bird inside it.
Oh my God.
And we were very worried that these two little girls, who are 2.5, 3-year-old, they also might be having catapults. But every young boy and girl over there, they go with catapults and they hunt birds. The elder ones go with dows, which are sword like machetes, and they also have catapults. The minute they turn teenagers, they get guns, muskets, and they hunt birds. So we talked with a friend of ours over there who runs an NGO, and the easiest solution we found was that why are they doing them? Because in vacations and other things, they have no activity to do. They're bored. So this is the way that they kill their boredom. So we installed basketball, rings over there and carom boards, and 70% of the poaching has gone down.
So there are no schools over there for them?
No, so this was in school vacation. This was in May, so school vacations were going on. So that is the time when they go out and they do this hunting. But which is also the breeding season of the birds. So, it's both. The parent is also gone and the chicks are also probably going to die. So it's a double whammy of sorts. But what I'm saying is that, sometimes putting a volleyball or a basketball court and, a carom board, something as cheap as that. And girls and guys spend hours and hours playing carom over there. And then don't go into the forest for hunting.
Wonderful.
The third thing that was suggested by this friend Chinmay was that setting up chicken selling shops at very cheap price. So the NGO was sponsoring a chicken shop which was selling chicken at cheaper price than the regular market price. So if you make chicken cheaper, then they will not go for the birds. So sometimes conservation, you have to an NGO can also play a very different role. And who would have thought that a simple volleyball or a basketball rink and a carom board can actually solve some of our poaching issues that are there. So we don't need to have space science kind of research to find some of these solutions.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm also very passionate about plants. Kavita must have realized that.
Wonderful.
So I keep on clicking different things. I like the shapes and the forms, and I'm going to get a lampshade made of this plant.
What is it, Anand?
The kind of a sterculia, like the willows.
Wow.
So the fruits have these spines, and only when the fruits are ready, they open up and they fall down. So I'm going
Which is the species? Any idea?
I have the name. I'll check it and give it to you. I'm a little. I like my plants, but I have to do work before I can. I made a mistake of leaving botany very early. I picked it up again at the Wildlife Institute, but I'm a little shaky with it also. And next to that, you can see that's a Rixia. This is the first thallophyte, the first plant which establishes soil. These were the most primitive creatures ancient creatures which came onto the planet. And whenever there's a soil erosion, you will see the entire evolutionary cycle happening, where the Rixias come in first, then the grasses come in, then the angiosperms come in. So exactly how it happened in nature in 400, 500 million years, in a small landslide, you can see 500 million years of evolution happening right in front of you. And I explained this on a nature trail, and a friend, she wrote a poetry on the evolutionary rock. Where you could see that. And I think sometimes when you say it, you don't realize it, but when you hear it back from somebody else, or you read a poem or something written about it, then you realize, oh wow, did I say that? Like, I didn't know I was saying something. So I think evolution is happening right in front of us. Also, there are examples of evolution which are happening, and that can excite people, that you can see it living within us on a day-to-day basis. This is one of my favorite climbers called Hoya. It's a very beautiful plant. It's nowadays available in all these nurseries for 500 and 1,000 rupees. People are having Hoyas in Delhi's and Chandigarh's and Dehraduns.
This is not an orchid. It looks like an orchid.
No. The one on the right is an orchid. That's
Wow.
a dendrobium. On the one on the left is a climber called Hoya.
Very beautiful.
It's called the wax plant. You can Google up Hoya. You will get lots of places who are selling Hoya plants, and they get beautiful flowers.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was again in Buxa Tiger Reserve. Buxa came out to be a fantastic trip for me. Just give me an update. Can I speak for another 10 minutes more? Is that good?
Yes, please. Anand,
Yeah.
when would you like everyone to unmute themselves and make it an interactive discussion?
I think they can ask now as well, or
Okay, as you like, whatever you'd like.
I'm okay with questions coming now as well.
Okay, so
I mean-
would everyone please like to unmute themselves and then you can pose your questions to Anand as and when?
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So again in Buxa, we saw these beautiful flalid. It's kind of a bug. It's a nymph of a bug, and you can see how frilled and
My God,
fashionable looking.
amazing.
I wouldn't use the word feathery, but they have these plumes kind of thing that are there. And I have friends who are fashion designers, and I told them, in one of your fashion shows, you can probably replicate something like this from nature. And
Yeah.
I think it's a dream of mine to have a nature fashion show on an airplane someday. Where we can showcase let's say the common picture wing that is over here below. This was taken in Andamans after a cyclone. There were, hundreds and hundreds of picture wings which came onto the island. And that is, people say that seagulls, we use the word seagulls, actually they should be called land gulls. Because seagulls are not found in deep sea. They're always found close to islands and land. Seagulls are indication that there is land. If you are lost on sea and you start seeing gulls, that means you've come close to land. So I think they should be called land gulls and not seagulls. Similarly, these picture wings, dragonflies are also found very close to land. So whenever we see a dragonfly, you know that you are somewhere close to land. And dragonflies are following the same pathways for the last 300 million years. They've been Mosquitoes and dragonflies have been there before the dinosaurs, when the temperatures were 200 degrees Celsius and there was, 20% carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And today also they're surviving in the climate change scenario. So they are very good indicators, and we need to all study dragonflies and damselflies.
Fantastic.
The other thing is this spider in Arunachal, which we saw. I have a friend who's a spider expert, so I showed it to him, and he's like, Anand, I can tell you the genus, but I can't tell you the species because there is only one described species of this spider, and yours is the second one. Go find it and describe it. So I said, there's a photo over here. Why can't we describe it from this? He says, because spiders can be only described after you dissect their genitalia and put all these details. Photographs are not, they're good enough to tell you something is A and B is different, but everything can't be identified using just photographs. People think photographs are the end of the world. He says, no, for science, you need to go a little beyond that. So he said, go find that spider, get it, put it into a container and bring it, and I'll give you a new species whoever you want to name it after. So, this is in Namdafa. Anybody who's in the audience, Samir, Akshay, or, if Arjun or others who are there, please go and find this spider. It is on a guest house wall. It's waiting to be named. It's living an unnamed life till now. So there are these, gems which are hiding right in front of us, like this Durbid plant hopper. I have no idea what it is doing with this fancy, was it a part of a fashion show? It's a fly. And you will see all the fruit flies, all these Durbid plant hoppers, they've got such fantastic patterns, and our fashion designers can easily pick up stuff from them. Why do we need to, replicate anything else? So this is called biomimicry, of course, biomimetics, when we take inspiration from things of nature. But apparently this plant hopper uses this transparent part to reflect the moonlight in the night to communicate with other Durbid plant hoppers somewhere else in the forest. So these are their reflectors probably. So that's the thing that we might be able to also develop technology of these kinds, which might be using infrared lighting or the infrared wavelength to probably for warfare. So there's a lot of potential in some of these things. And I'll take you to my native village. My dad lives in a place called Devruk, which is in Ratnagiri district. It's in the Western Ghats. It's just 10 kilometers from the Sahyadri Tiger Reserve. And there are giant squirrels over there.
Wonderful.
In our yard, there could be anywhere between 20 to 25 Indian pied hornbills, while you are sipping chai. Or there could be blackbirds and ground thrushes over there. The Malabar whistling thrush is always there. It in fact breeds in our area. And then there are these small caves and caverns which are there, which are full with bats. I have recorded about 12 species of bats over there. I'm also a very big bat enthusiast. I think we are not doing enough justice to the diversity of bats that we have. 25% of all species of mammals are bats, and we are yet stuck with 15 species of cats. So I think we had in fact approached Sachin Tendulkar to go for one of the shows or whatever and say I bat for the bats. I said just that much would be enough, but he was asking us for just too much amount of money. So yeah, whatever. So or at least the intermediate person who was connecting us to him was probably asking for the money. I don't know. Maybe Sachin Tendulkar was not. So sometimes using your connections, if we can have these connections, who can get us to meet these stars and they can put their voice. We see Bollywood stars, we see Hollywood stars putting their word across for conservation. So I think I always try to find out ways where you make it your own cause. I don't need to be in the limelight. You take this up and you become the star saying Sachin Tendulkar bats for bats or batted, whatever. So I think, or the newer generation, anybody, Kohli or whoever, if you all know them, please tell them to say these things. It'll be quite helpful if they put this up on the social media. It can be of great conservation value. Find such people who already have like a billion followers.
Anand, where is this? Sorry, where are the bats?
This is again in Devruk, just about 500 meters from my house. There was a sinkhole inside which this bat colony was there.
Wow.
Yeah. There are 3 species of bats in this picture.
Is it the short-nosed bat also?
No. So there is the orangish ones you can see. Those are the bearded tom bats. Taphozous melanopogon. Then the other ones are there are some false vampires on the side somewhere. There's Megaderma lyra, and these really large number of them. These are I think.
And do they live in mixed species?
Yes, that's what we found in many places. So even in Kanheri caves, when we saw that they do cluster, but like you'll see some of these single individuals, they go and hide in between them also. So the colonial ones, they are all together, but there are others who come and hide inside them. I wouldn't say that, so the other ones who are singly, they go and hang in between, they find their niches and hang over there. Okay. We did a Save Our Sahyadri cyclathon, 1200 kilometers of cycling from Navapur to Mahabaleshwar and from Sawantwadi to Mahabaleshwar. And we had 25 people, men and women, who cycled. And we went to villages and talked and did skits and role plays, and we had an exhibition talking about what is the importance of Sahyadri, what is sacred groves, and etc. And we were cycling, and suddenly I stopped where I saw this leopard sitting in a valley below. And I stopped, and 5-7 other cyclists were coming from behind with me. They also stopped, and the drone person who was shooting us, because it was a ghat section, so he also stopped. He pulled the drone down, and we were all looking at the leopard. Then I suddenly realized, oh my God, I have my camera in my bag. So I pulled the camera out. I took a picture. When I took the picture, it seemed as if the leopard got very upset, me having taken its picture. So he started walking towards us. And he came like literally 3 meters from us. And we're like, okay, run, guys. He might probably attack. So we all cycled up. The drone person got into the car and he drove off. And then the leopard crossed the road, went up and sat there, and then started looking at the other cyclists coming down from there. Okay. And then I stopped and I kind of, said, why are you attacking us? We are actually trying to protect the Western Ghats for you. And everybody laughed and we went away. And then we came, in the night when we were doing a feedback with everybody, and they were like, some of these cyclists were not, they were just passionate people. They were cyclists. They were not wildlifers or anything. And they were like, why did you talk to the leopard? So I said, why not? People might think I'm mad, but yeah, sure, why not? At least he needs to know what I feel like. Maybe from my expression or from my eyes, he might understand. But one of the younger girls who was there in the team, she said that I think, the leopard probably must have understood. But what I understood from it is that the leopard was so close to us, it did not do a single thing to us. So, we can survive with leopards together. The leopard also can survive. Only I was worried that if it comes down again and there is a truck or a bus which goes and hits it. So the leopard is as much at risk as we as cyclists are. So as a cyclist, I felt for the leopard. I felt scared for the leopard. So I think these are some amazing situations which happened, and she was 14 years old, this girl. So for her, that was the takeaway lesson. In wildlife, we've studied that ancient deer species, they have tushes and antlers. So musk deer, mouse deer, and barking deer, they have tushes and antlers. I'd only learned it. I'd seen skulls, but we were in Corbett in 2010, and this barking deer wanted to clean its eye, and I suddenly saw a tush peep out. And very rarely do people actually, hundreds of people must have taken barking deer pictures, but you don't get to see the tushes. Like elephants have tusks, they have small tushes, and the males use these to jab each other. The musk deer doesn't have antlers, it only has tushes, and same is the case with the mouse deer. And they use that as a territorial fighting mechanism. So, when you want to tell stories, pictorial stories, then you need to actually also show these things in live. So sometimes it's a blurred picture. There are other things in between disturbing it, but you can see the message that it wants to convey is about the barking deer having tushes. I'm also fond of reptiles. I told you I like biodiversity, so every taxa becomes interesting for me. You can see the first picture is of a saw-scaled viper, which is considered to be one of the top 4 species, large species in India. And in the biodiversity festival for the tribals, I saw this child pour out water from his water bottle onto this saw-scaled viper. So I said, why? What happened? He says, no, the fire came and this animal has got burnt. So I said, but then why are you putting water? It's probably dead. He said, what if it is alive? And what if my water can save it? They are very scared. Tribals are very scared of snakes, of venomous snakes. And he knows that it's a venomous snake. But he's like, it's not good, to burn with fire and die. So, I thought that maybe I'll try and, put some water and save it. So, people tend to sometimes also demonize tribals and say, they are destroying, they are cutting forests, etc. But again, from a small age, they are connected to the forest much more or equally as we are as urban people. And next to that is the picture of a creature called Anole Japalura. This lizard was discovered by Wildlife Institute of India students while doing some studies in North Bengal. And that was the first time we came to know that India also has anoles or Japaluras. It was not even known to science till 1990s. And now there are lots of anoles which have been described from India. They were considered to be from the Indonesian and those parts. So, just occasionally also going, we can come up. And most people know other lizards. Hardly anybody knows about anoles. And in fact, Andaman itself has probably 9 or 10 species of anoles in different parts. So there's a researcher who's doing his PhD or who's probably completed his PhD and submitted it already now. So this was a Japalura or an anole in Namdafa that I saw. And
Anand,
here again,
Anand, sorry, what does the viper have in his stomach?
No. So it got burnt and it got flared up. It was a forest fire. So when the forest fires happen, all these and I tell people that the eggs and the snakes and everything who can't run away, they get burnt with the forest fire. And
He died.
They died, yeah. So that's why when I told them that when you do the farmers are doing burning of crops, I tell them that see, this is what happens when your fire escapes from your field, and you guys should now remember to at least if you burnt it, stop it in your field. Don't let it go into the forest. And this was the proof for that. So I think that message went out very strongly to the parents and to the kids also. And then one of the kids brought this. One of the guides called me and said this was in Dangs, and he said, "Oh, there is this venomous chameleon which has come," and so I let the chameleon on my hand and I held it and I showed him it's completely non-venomous. So there is a lot of myths that they have. They have fears that they bite. And I said their claws are very sharp. They really poke into your body. But the other thing, always that in field you've got to wear full sleeve clothes. I was telling my colleague today that he was wearing t-shirt and half sleeve. I said no. Whether it's cold, whether it is hot, whether there are leeches, whether there are ticks, whether it's thorns, full sleeve clothes with a collar, with a whatever headgear, it's important to protect yourself from the elements. And while this chameleon was walking on my hand, its claws were so sharp that they were digging through my arm into the hand, but they were protecting at least me from that much of an injury. And this was a very large snake that we found while going to Bhutan from the Paro airport to the main town. And again, I did not know what snake it was, and it was pitch dark in the night at 8:30, and I told the driver to wait, and I took a stick because it was in the middle of the road and I was moving it. I did not know whether it was a pit viper. I knew there were some pit vipers which are very, very long also in Northeast India. And I had a headlamp which was going on and off. My friend was showing me the light with his mobile phone. So the driver was so scared. He's like, "You're going to die. This snake is going to kill you. We always kill it. Usko maar do, ye wo." So but I took a stick and I moved it off the road. and we got pictures of the snake. So one has to sort of keep pushing one's knowledge and information. This was another life-changing moment for me when I went to Odisha and saw the mass nesting of the turtles in Gahirmatha.
So beautiful.
Yeah, they were. I had missed the peak of the mass nesting, but this is the off peak, if you can say. Yet there were about a lakh and a half turtles on the beach, and females were digging it, and tighten, hardening the soil with its eggs, and the other females were coming and digging it out because the beaches have become very small now because of the ports and all the sand mining that is happening. The area is becoming much lesser, as well as the cyclones are taking away the sand. But this was very moving in the middle at 2:30 in the night, where I was being pushed from all sides by these female turtles. I was absolutely in tears, watching them on the full moon night coming and laying eggs over there. So I think this is something that everyone should at least experience once in their lifetime.
Anand, how is this nest got damaged?
No, so what happens is that the space is very small.
Huh.
So the other females come and dig up. They don't know where they are digging, and they remove these eggs and throw it out, and then they lay their eggs. So there are lakhs of eggs which are lying around like that because there's lack of space now. Earlier,
Why is there lack of space? What happened?
the beach was 1 kilometer wide earlier, but because of climate change and cyclones, the sand is now getting washed away. The beach is now hardly 300 meters wide. From 1 kilometer wide beach, it has come down to 300 meters. So the available space is like a crescentic beach now, and very little space is available. And they always nest near the mouths of big rivers. So Mahanadi or Rishikulya or Gahirmatha, they are there. Only that kind of soil is important. So that is the discovery that the current director of the BNHS, Vivash Pandav, did in his PhD thesis. He was my batchmate, and I had walked from Puri to Ganjam, the entire coast of Orissa, in 5 days after we finished our masters, and that's when we found out that India has the 3 largest mass nesting sites in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So please do take an opportunity and go and see this nesting. This is
Which is a good time to go, Anand?
So generally it happens in February, around Valentine's Day. So make your turtles your Valentine for 1 year. So I used to keep a open ticket to Bhubaneswar, and it's about an 4 hours drive from Bhubaneswar. So if Shashikant Das or Soumikant Das, who are there in the team, they might be able to coordinate and help you all also, because local information is needed. When they start coming, I have friends over there who message me and say, "Chalo sir, take the flight and come." Karke. So immediately I take that same night's flight and fly. But this year the entire nesting shifted by 1 month. It happened in March and not in February.
Wow.
So yeah, and then the cyclone which happened now, they found 1 crore eggs which have been washed away. So this year has been horrible in that way, and more cyclones coming. There's one more cyclone forming in the southern Andaman island thing now.
Anand, does one have to go all the way to Orissa? Or what about, I believe, the beaches in the Konkan, where you can also see it happen, right? Are those good?
Konkan, in Konkan there are probably 17 turtles that nest, or 20 turtles or 50 turtles. Here you have 50,000 or 17,000 per square kilometer. That's the difference. That they've I think the Velas model of popularizing turtle festival is very good, but it's very few number of turtles. Like seeing 65 hatchlings versus 60,000, 6 million hatchlings. There's a huge difference, of volume that one can see. But yeah, one should definitely first go to, I've been supporting the Kasa Utsav at Velas all throughout, right from the first festival. But one has to, this is like the Mecca, or the whatever you want to call it, the Shashwamedh Ghat of things, that you have to do this once at least in your lifetime.
Okay, thank you.
So this is another anole which we saw at Yoksam in our biodiversity festival.
Wow.
Beautiful green anole with the beautiful blue and white dewlap. So there is diversity and there's beauty in a lot of other creatures besides, of course, birds and mammals, big mammals. And as I said, there are bird festivals, biodiversity festivals. So we had gone to Tadoba recently, and this actor, Kitu Gidwani, she all with me. So she said, "Okay, Anand, this time I'm going to come for a long trip with you." And she came to Tadoba, and we said we are traveling by 3rd AC by train. So she's like, "Okay, I'll travel by 3rd AC with you all." And she came and she was sitting in a train and she created so much furrow, the TC and everybody were like excited that Kitu Kedani is there with, in the train. And she was so friendly and everything. And then she got everyone together and said, chalo, 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 abhi ek lecture hone wala hai. We're going to have a nice session over here. She called everyone and said, okay, Anand. And she had not even given me any notice about what she's doing that for. I thought she's going to talk about something. And she said, nahi, yes, sir, hai. He's a wildlife expert and he's going to tell you all about wildlife. If you are going to Nagpur, then you must know about the tigers and the problem of mining that is happening over there. So sometimes, something like this, a person who can really bring people together, you find a good role model that helps. So here you can see we are doing a lecture, a slideshow in Kutch. Our trips are very educational. We focus a lot on learning and, things. So this on the right hand side, you can see that's a walk in the sacred grove in my native village. And above that is a bird festival we organized at Kamshet. A friend runs a paragliding resort, and in that we organized a bird festival. And again, back to my Himalaya. I've spent about 4 winters in Ladakh of late. The latest one was before the lockdown when I did Chadar. And yeah, again, Chadar is one of those things which you tick off. Like after doing Nanda Devi and Trishul, if you go to Chadar, everyone was like laughing at me. Like, Anand, what? Why are you going for Chadar? It's such a easy peasy walk. So I said, no, but I think there is something about it. I want to experience it. And what was waiting for to be experienced was where this ibex. I was brushing over there, and this ibex came. There was a small open water source, and the ibex came and drank water and went away. And if you all know, the Ladakhi people call it skin or dolma, which means goddess. So the guides were very, very happy that the goddess came between them and she drank water in front of them. So they said, ab hamara trip successful ho jayega. And we were the only 2 groups which went that day who could do the Chadar in 2020. All other groups had to come back. There was a blizzard, there was a helicopter rescue, all sorts of things happened. So, for them, of course, it's superstition, but that the ibex came so close to us was fantastic. We saw bharals also over there. We saw Tibetan wolf and lots of birds, brown brown dippers. And this is the Nerak ice fall, or what they call as the waterfall that is there. All beautiful, frozen water. So again, this is and then we met a Wildlife Institute of India team who was doing studies about the impact of tourism and camping on the Chadar. And what happened again, that when I went there also, I found a lot of tins and cans and other things. So in my typical habit, I went and collected all of that and put it in my bag. And there was an ITBP checkpost over the RB checkpost over there. They came and again they asked me what I'm doing and why am I collecting all this garbage. So I said, if you guys are not doing it, then somebody has to do it. The Chadar trek is getting dirtier and dirtier. And if this metal gets into the water, it increases the temperature. So the Chadar will melt faster and faster. So I think some of these actions, if you keep doing and you keep it as a practice that you do cleanups on a regular basis. Kanchenjunga, the Zongri trek, where we created a world record with a 2-year, 7-month-old kid to go up till Coachella. So as you can see, fantastic forests. The Himalayan forests come down to very low. The forest goes high up. The tree line is much higher in the eastern Himalaya as compared to western Himalaya. And these are the in Doon. I like this picture because it reminds me of my Doon school days, where in my garden I had hydrangeas over there. Magnolia, which is again a very grand flower. We have a magnolia also in the Doon school campus that is there. And rhododendrons. There are 30+ species of rhododendron in Northeast India. And Sikkim is a great place to go and see rhododendron. So this is rhododendron falconeri. Beach walks are our, literally like we do a beach walk almost at least 1 or 2 beach walks every month. Whether it's in Andamans, whether it is in Malvan, whether it is on Juhu Beach, whether it is in Haji Ali. Today in the morning I did one at Vasai. So, I believe that islanders have to keep on looking at their island flora and fauna. And again, with the coastal road coming, our data, my student's thesis was submitted as an affidavit for the data, of what biodiversity is found in the marine area. So we have created, I told you already about the app that is there. And trekking, Western Ghats is there. There are a lot of Shivaji forts that are there. So we take people for bird watches, just enjoying the monsoon falls, not doing too much of, birding, butterflying, snake watching, nothing. Just go and chill in the water over there, and then do a cleanup at the end of it. Of course, the cleanup has to happen. That's not possible. And again, like as you can see, going to tribal areas, going to Andamans, and we've created solar caps. We've created a diversity of products that we do in the areas. We created some films. So we did a whiteboard animation in 2017 for the Save the Sahyadri Cyclothon in Marathi and then later on in English. So if you can go to our YouTube channel of Sprouts, you'll be able to see this. It's a 15-minute whiteboard animation, which we did it in 20 days in my bedroom with a whiteboard and pen and a camera. And just pizzas and cold drinks, nothing. There was no budget for this film. And it was scripted right there. Our team member who was a very good DSO. Small 15 by 14. Sometimes one doesn't need much of technology. The lower film that you can see, the hidden jewels of Mumbai, was created on a mobile phone. There's an app called Quick, and my student created this film. So it's easy to start doing documentation through cameras, through mobiles, through photographs, etc. And you can see this is our RA documentation. These are all the posters we submitted to the court. They are very nicely, properly labeled, and names. We have about 12 posters of various flora and fauna, butterflies, moths, bugs and beetles, birds, then trees, climbers, then all the smaller, ants, spiders. So all the diversity is properly, represented. And then with Tiger Watch, we did a poster on save the, prevent sand mining in the Chambal River. Or with Sumair Abdul Ali, we've been partnering for the Awaz Band campaign for supporting, silent zones in city areas. Similarly, on International Snakes Day, we showed the interactions of snakes between different creatures, not just snake pictures, but how do they fit within the ecosystem. And gardening, I believe that growing your own food, local food, is a big thing. So we do a lot of gardening workshops. I had a nature shop in Malad in Bombay, where we created a terrace garden on a 1500 square feet space. This was how we found the St. Catherine's Home garden. When we started, it was full of glass and metal and garbage, and young students from the college, they came and volunteered, and we transformed the space. You can see the hanging garden over there. We transform places like that. So we do a lot of gardening workshops, hosting. Sir, I think your sound is.
Anand?
Yeah.
How long more is your presentation?
Another 5 slides.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
I think we, okay, so we didn't
So
do
anyway,
it.
I've already sort of talked a lot about this, that we do a lot of awareness activities, butterfly, bird activities, but scientific documentation research has been also another of our mainstay. That and training people. So this was the study of the Mumbai Trans Harbour Link Road, biodiversity, and restoration, ecological restoration. This is a 60-year-old NGO called Yusuf Merali Center, and we're working with them to ecologically change. They had all foreign plants. We said, you're as a Gandhian organization, let's use Swadeshi plants also, not just talk of Swadeshi with clothes and other things. So we are now replanting that area with indigenous plants. Quickly, I'll tell you about Siachen. It was one of the toughest study that I've ever been in. I spent close to 3 months in South Siachen, which is the area called DBO and Gaption. The Galwan area where all the recent Pulwama and other things happened. This is that same area. This Nala is called Chipchap Nala. In summer, the temperature used to be up to minus 15 degrees Celsius. And on the left side of the Chipchap Nala is POK. On the right hand side is COK or Aksai-Chin, which we lost in 65. So this was a very dangerous zone that we had to walk through. We had to start very early. And in this river, there was frozen glacial waters which were there. And I had to do 135 river crossings till chest deep water in cold freezing water with my camera, with my laptop and everything. And you cross and then you come out and then you again cross and then you come out. And we kept on doing this for about 4 hours, and your toes, your hands get completely numb. And you can see over here, after about a month or so, my face was peeled. I had 3-4 levels of peeling of my skin because of sunburns. And I had a huge problem because of the dryness over there, I used to get bleeding every day. I used to get anal bleeds and ear bleeds. So I was bleeding from literally every opening in my body. And so it was one of the toughest sort of studies that I've ever done in my life. With, as I told you, a lot of bombshells and stuff being found everywhere. And crossing this Saserla was quite a thing. There was a blizzard that happened when we were crossing, and it was just after India and Pakistan's Independence Day. So it was on 16th of August we were crossing. We were the first team going into Siachen that time, and 10 Jawans from the upper camp came. They cut some steps for us to cross. And when we reached back and we were in the canteen and we were sitting and eating our lunch at around 2:30, only 4 boys came back. And the officer in charge asked over there, what happened? Where are the remaining 6? They said, sir, icefall happened and those 6 fell inside. We spent 20 minutes searching them, but then again the blizzard came, so we had to return. So the officer very comfortably said, ठीक है, खाना गरम है, अच्छा भिंडी का सब्जी बनाए, खाओ और जाके सो जाओ. And we were aghast that we take the work that the army or what the armed forces do, and these young boys, one of them was just 21 years old, and he had died. So what research happens, it happens on the back of a lot of other people, and we need to be grateful, whether it's the forest department, whether it's the army, or whether it's even the lab right. But I got lost in this blizzard over there, and the only way I could reach the camp was following the blood spots of the mules. So when they were walking on the glacier, these because of heat, the water melts and they form these icicles which are sharp like glass. And when the mules used to put their feet inside, the icicles used to go into their foot and bleed them. So the entire snow had blood spots on them, and I could follow that and get to the campsite. Otherwise, I would have probably been in China or Pakistan. I don't know where. Yeah. So this is the animal we went to study. It was absolutely fantastic. We were the first group who scientifically documented that male chirus come to India. Otherwise, everybody believed that only the female chirus like this. This is a young one. So they kill 8 young ones to make a shatu shawl, or 4 adults to make a shatu shawl. Please don't buy a wildlife. I don't think for this audience I need to see it. But see, when I took this picture, in the front there was a skull of a human being. The entire pathway that we went through, there were skulls and carcasses of camels, of horses, of human beings. That place was this is a feeder route to the Silk Route. So there was so much of dead bodies and things like that. So we used to be scared to sit down, that if we sit and there is a landslide or there's a blizzard, we are going to be finished. So this was emotionally and physically both very challenging kind of a study. And of course, temperatures in summers, it was -15. And you can see the Chipchap Nala, what we were crossing. And we had to climb all the way up in the same day and get onto the other side. And the right-hand side picture is like my, this is the only picture of this species of Myconopsis, orange Myconopsis. So Stanton Polunin wrote to me saying that please send me this picture. But unfortunately, my hard drive crashed and the high resolution picture is gone. So it's known to be found in Nepal, in Dolpo and some parts, but nobody has a photographic evidence of this picture, of this species also. And you can see lots of more skulls. This plant which we found on the left-hand side, for almost close to 3-4 months, we couldn't find any reference in Indian flora. So we looked at flora of China, we couldn't find any reference. Finally, in flora of Kyrgyzstan, we found a reference of this plant. So, these areas of Siachen and parts, because of the army presence, have not been surveyed for flora and fauna. And one wouldn't imagine that you'll find a new species in some areas like these. And this mountain weasel over here came and ate up all the eggs from our campsite. He used to come in the night and eat up from our tent. He used to come and eat, just make a hole and suck off all the eggs that are there. If Akshay is there in the audience, he'll remember that the similar thing had happened on the Nandavi expedition also, where eggs had come from the lower camp and everybody were dreaming, I'm going to eat French toast and I'm going to eat omelets, and this mountain weasel came and finished off everything. Yeah, and at 19,500 feet we found grasshoppers also. Of course, butterflies are very common in those altitudes. So this is Saser Kangri, which used to send small icicle particles in our eyes constantly. Okay, I'm going to go fast now. This is Kanchenjunga, the Annapurna circuit. Very, very beautiful trek again. Everyone, please, I recommend it very highly. Great flora, fauna, great food. And there is Marfa apple cider, which you can get over there. It's very special also. This is Dolpo, this is Foksumdo in Nepal, which George Schaller had got it protected. So we landed, this plane landed in a potato field. And the operator who was running the airport over there was a barber. He left his client half shaved and came, hailed the plane. The plane came, landed, and literally turned like an auto rickshaw because the mountain had finished. He turned and he parked and he said, okay, landed. And we were scared we were going to go over the mountain. But very beautiful trek. Please, if you've not done Folksumdo Lake trek, and this village we thought had got submerged. Of course, when we were there, most of the villagers used to go with their goats to graze, but it was a completely empty village. There's nobody staying there, and the houses are much more underground than above. So below you can see that they have a honeybee keeping project which the government has started over there, where these honeybee combs have an internal connection with the kitchen fire. So the fire keeps the honeybee warm and they don't die because of winter cold. And they have set up, these are bee boxes. So the women, there is a plate, you open the thing and you take honey from it, you put some smoke, the bees will move on the side, you take some honey, put it on the roti and give it to them and close it. So the bees give a little honey on a regular basis, but they don't get killed. I think this is a good idea and for conservation that many other places can also replicate. Anyway, so these are all the training with guards, guides, teachers, at conferences like the Students' Conference for Conservation Science, which I recommend people to attend. This was a terrible one because I went to the remand home in Bombay and I talked to children over there. And there were 10-year-old criminal children who felt that they should have been protected by society. And again, I came back and I got into the taxi and I started weeping because of the pain that I had seen in this kid's eyes.
Ayush, please speak to Rakesh. He's having a problem. Rakesh. And so we take part in many campaigns and we look for support from partners to be part of our campaigns. So whether it's the 350.org or this poster we got, this campaign we did called God Save the Ocean was supported by Ogilvy and Mather, and that got some 12 awards, Blue Elephant and other things. So they are masters of their work, and when you take good partners, you can create some of our products that we
Anand,
done.
Anand, I've got a message from Ashu.
Yeah.
He's requesting that if he could please wind up for today.
The last slide. Yeah. So this is the book of, and we will okay. So if any questions or sorry I took a little longer.
No problem. I think Ashu wants us to wind up for today. Maybe we can carry it on another day. Somebody's mic is on. Samir, your mic is on.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem.
But I just wanted to say, sir, thank you so much for such an amazing. Considering I have known you, and yet I am blown away by the stuff that I'm seeing, because this stuff I haven't seen. So yeah,
Sabir has
unbelievable.
come for 1 or 2 of the trips. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you, Kavita, and the whole, Doon School.
Anand, this was a mind-boggling talk. I'm going to find it hard to assimilate all that you've shared with us, but thank you so much for a fabulous presentation. Had no idea of all that you've done, and you've really achieved so much and spread the passion of ecology and not environment. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you for attending. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you.
Yeah.